Remember when it started raining in a Formula One race and you'd think, it's about to get really good. Those races where the rain equaled the playing field, where overtakes could happen anywhere, and where the most random drivers would come out as heroes of that day. Well, in 2025, that's not the story anymore. Having rain almost always means a delay in the race and having a rolling start with laps and laps and laps of safety car. And when the race finally starts, we have the safety car again. Today we're going to break down why this happens. We're going to be looking at the design of the cars, the tires, why Formula 2 can sometimes race when Formula 1 can't, and we're also going to be looking into the future at the new regulations coming up in 2026 and how what races are going to be affected by them. Modern Formula 1 cars are basically like giant vacuum cleaners stuck to the floor. Since 2022, the sport brought back ground effect, which are huge tunnels underneath the Formula 1 car that suck the car to the track thanks to the airflow underneath. It's often compared to an upside-down airplane. In dry tracks, this is actually great. It means that the car has more grip to the track and that they're able to go faster in the corners. The 2022 rules were also designed so that the way could be cleaner and cars would be able to follow each other a lot more closely. At least compared to before, because the dirty air still sucks nowadays. But in the rain, those tunnels and that ground effect is actually a huge part of the problem. Because all the water thrown out by the tires gets caught by the diffuser under the car and blasted back like a giant thick cloud right into the line of vision of the car behind. And since 2017, the tires have also been a lot wider. Thicker rubber means more water displacement, which means more spray in the face. And speaking of tires, there are two compounds that the drivers can use during wet races. First, we have the full wets, which are the tires with the blue sidewall, and these are monsters. At high speed, each tire can diffuse 85 liters of water per second. Yes, per second. Multiply that by 4 and you've got an industrial-sized pressure washer pointing backwards. If we want to talk about ways that Formula 1 can reduce carbon emissions, I personally think that not bringing these tires to every single race is a good way to do it, because they're never used and they're never going to be used. And then we've got the intermediate tires, which are the ones with the green sidewall, and they only displace around 30 liters of water per second, which is a huge difference. It's less than half than the previous tires, but it still creates more spray than the drivers are able to see through, and there's 20 drivers on track. And you only have to watch when Hadjar drove into Antonelli earlier this year at Silverstone to understand why the spray is such a big problem. And here's the counterintuitive part, because the tires are performing their job perfectly. They were designed so that they would displace as much water as possible so that the drivers could go on high speeds and not slide around the track. But in doing so, all the water displaced is going into the driver behind. I've probably heard a lot of people say,
if Formula 2 can race, why can't Formula 1?
I've said it quite a few times myself. It often feels like Formula 2 is the sacrificial lamb that the FIA throws on track to see if it's safe enough to throw in the millionaires. The short answer is that conditions aren't always the same, even on the same day. But there's also another reason, and that is that the cars aren't the same either. The first thing that is different is the tires. The Formula 2 tires are actually around 10 to 15% slimmer than the Formula 1 tires, which means less water displacement. The second aspect is the aerodynamics. Formula 2 has a less aggressive ground effect than Formula 1, and their diffuser, which is one of the main issues with the spray, is a lot smaller. And another factor that comes in is the speed, because Formula 2 cars are quite a bit slower than Formula 1 cars. Take Silverstone for example. Formula 2 cars go at an average speed between 240 to 260 kilometers per hour, and the Formula 1 cars go between 270 to 290 kilometers per hour, which is quite a big difference. All of this means that Formula 2 cars throw up less water with less force, and because they're going slower, the spray tends to disperse a lot quicker. The visibility is still bad, but it's not catastrophic. This spray and lack of visibility is actually not a new problem. It's been evolving over quite a few years. Back in the early 80s, when ground effect was first introduced into Formula 1, there were already quite a few complaints regarding the spray, but ground effect got banned for quite a few decades, so this problem disappeared for a while. Then in 2017, with the introduction of the wider tires, the amount of water displacement skyrocketed. And in 2022, with the reintroduction of ground effects and underfloor tunnels, this issue came back. The FIA actually tested different methods to see if they were able to reduce the spray with things like spray guard. These are sort of wheel covers to trap the water, and they helped a little, but not enough. These spray guards reduced the spraying from the tires, but not from the diffusers, and they even created some turbulence, which is a whole other issue. So in the end, they didn't pass the test. The 2026 regulations are bringing in lighter, narrower, and shorter cars that in all create 30% less downforce and less drag. And even though the tires will remain 18-inch diameter, they will be 25 millimeters narrower in the front and 30 millimeters narrower in the back, which added to less downforce should reduce the spray quite a bit. Will this fix everything? I don't think so. But I do think it will reduce the amount of laps we have to do with the safety car because the visibility window will open a lot sooner. At the heart of it, Formula One differs from other racing categories because it's not all about the driver. The biggest impact comes from the car itself and how it's engineered. And there is this constant push of making the cars faster and faster and faster. But I think we have come to a point where the FIA has to ask, do we want faster cars or do we want good races? Because if we reduce the downforce of the Formula One cars quite a bit, the cars will go a lot slower, maybe even to the speed of a Formula 2 car, but we are guaranteed race reining and overtakes. But at the same time, the engineerical aspect of Formula One might be lost a little bit. I don't know, it's not an easy call for the FIA to make. I personally would love to see more wheel-to-wheel racing and more overtakes and wet racing. But at the same time, one of the reasons why I love Formula One, it's because of the engineering and the innovation that goes into the cars. Hopefully one day the engineers of one of the teams or Pirelli figure out a way to maintain the speed of the cars while reducing the spray and dirty air, and we will have just the most insane races, but it also might take some time for that to come. But let me know what you guys would choose, the cutting edge technology aspect of it or guarantee race in every type of condition. Let me know down in the comments. And as always, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next one.